Thank you. Welcome to the 21st Men. My name is Vince. Welcoming our cast for you all today. We are going to go over relationships today and how that affects men, how that affects our normal day-to-day operations, and how that really kind of affects our personal lives and our public lives, and what we do and how we do it. So, guys, just in general, what do you guys think about relationships, and do you feel like they translate your worldview?
So there's different phases, I think, of relationships, right? Like the first phase, the puppy love, right? Yep. We're all just in puppy love. And I think, during that phase or season of your relationship, what happens is a lot of bad stuff. I mean, good, I guess, in the sense of like your relationship, but you deny everything else, right? Your friends go out the window. Your work, you're lucky if you get there early or even on time, right? So, I mean, that phase is only a phase because you have to transition out of that, or else society would be chaotic 24/7, at least in my opinion, right? So, I mean, I definitely think that relationships, even in the end phase, I mean, they do dictate and predicate what your worldview is going to be, how you're going to decide to, run yourself in the world. So,
The most unique thing about relationships is that if you make it long enough, you are no longer a whole person. You are now half of a whole, which is the very interesting thing about relationships, is that you now have to deal with living with another individual and conquering the world together as opposed to yourself. And the world alone, it can be a dark and scary place when you're just facing it. And we've all been here where we've just been single for a long time, and you're just like, golly, I need something to be with, somebody to hold and spend nights with and stuff like that. And I think it's crucial to have relationships. And also,
not Rashad. He's never been single. He looks like Chris Brown.
Right. So, yeah. but even then, even the one night stands or the going out to the clubs and things and meeting girls for a week or so can get empty at certain points in time. And if you don't have a fulfilling relationship, I think it can lead to an empty life.
What about career? What about relationships inside of work? How do those help you view your world, your actions? How do they dictate your life?
What type of relationship?
We're talking in general. So,
okay, so non-romantic.
Not just romantic, okay. But I mean, we're talking about our relationships as a whole, whether they be romantic, whether they be community-based, whether they be faith-based or career-based. How do they dictate our lives as men?
Well, on the professional life, I would say, you have to, it does dictate in a way due to the fact that now with the movement that have been going on and stuff, now you got to be more worried how you talk to females or even how you crack a joke, when you are in the job.
Unless you're Trump.
Or the or in the professional life, and also having good relationship within your professional career, your networking, your friends who also help you advance your career. Where you're standing. I believe that the world runs by who you know and how you conduct yourself.
So you think networking is important?
Oh, definitely.
Likability. Can you be likable enough for people to want to do favors for you? I think it's a big deal. People are more lenient if you're likable.
I think everything's about relationships. Like if it wasn't, I feel like we wouldn't be on this earth to share it with each other. Yeah. Like, why weren't we just created to be one person per planet or something? Like, I feel like we're designed to do this life together.
Yeah. So what would you think about a woman who says that, I'm moving into the more personal now, what would you think that when a woman would say, hey, men just want to hit it and quit it, they want to just have sex, they don't want to have no relationship, what would you say to them?
I think it really derives from, each person is going to be a little bit different, right? But something like that isn't, just like a thought in her mind, like, oh, I just think that's the way every guy is, So I think with something like that, it's not like, she just thought like, oh, that's just something the way it is, It's something that, has happened to that person.
Yeah.
Right.
Women have been burned many times, so they have their guard up, obviously, as they should.
I kind of want to know what's their story, maybe.
Yeah, and I think honestly I'm taking like the hit for like this way too, is like men in general, tend to be more promiscuous. Culturally, it's okay. What do you call a man or a key that can unlock any lock? The master key, right? Mm-hmm. What do you call a lock that can be unlocked by any key? You call it a crappy lock, right? And I think that's the way society, in a lot of ways, views males and females. Males being the key and females being the lock.
I would say, and piggyback on what you're saying, and not only in that fact that men are the one that those things, because realistically, if you come to the deeper meaning, females do the same thing. They're just quiet about it. We are a man that have multiple women is the man. A woman that have multiple men is not the woman. So that's the
What are they
perspective.
called?
It's called another word.
It's called another word.
I like it.
A word that is not really friendly.
Yeah.
So it's that point of view. Men like to brag about certain things, and females are more quiet about it. Because I personally know some experience and some people, female I'm talking about, there are worse than some men that I know.
Yeah.
But they, the day to day, you don't know they're like that because they don't conduct their self like that. They don't act like that.
It's crazy when he said that, it really blows my mind, because I grew up during a time where if a woman was sleeping around a lot, she was considered many words: hoe, thought, slut. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on with the names. But nowadays, it's almost it's almost reversed in a way. I won't say it's reversed. If anything, it's not as frowned upon. Because I've noticed nowadays a women will say a lot of things guys used to say back in the day, like, girl, what's your body count? Like, what do you mean your body count? Why are you saying that? Like, I'm confused. Like,
I've seen stuff like that too.
They're now taking on that masculine role, and that's how I know masculinity. That's how you know men in general. And let's not connect that with masculinity. I apologize. What was considered masculine culturally was how many women you could sleep with.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Which is...
if for some reason, women now are taking that on almost. And I'm curious, like, why do you think that is? Like, I don't know.
So, majority of the time when we talk about masculinity, we talk about it from a perspective of culture. So, which is great. So having that narrative is important, and we need to identify why we're called what we're called, like why masculinity has been deemed as quote unquote toxic, and why we may or may not want to change that narrative. But sticking to relationships, interracial relationships as a whole, are you guys aware that interracial relationships are at 17%? Well, it's only grown from 5%, so it's grown, but it's only at 17%. What are your guys' viewpoints on interracial relationships?
Well, I don't think the growth matters to me. I like if people are dating within their own race, that's fine too. If they're dating without their own race or outside of their own race, that's fine too. I just think it's nice to see people are more accepting. That's what it shows. But you'll never have a high percentage of that. At least not in our lifetime. I don't project. But interracial relationships are very difficult. And it's not necessarily sometimes about the person falling for the individual. It's the environment they're surrounded in and whether they can actually sustain that relationship given the environment that they live in.
So do you think that those stereotypes around interracial relationships are there because of the struggle that they could internally have inside there?
What's an example of one of those? Just so I can kind of understand.
So,
like a stereotype about interracial.
So let's go ahead and go over the idea of Love versus Virginia, right? So you had Richard and Mildred loving. They wanted to be in a relationship. It was the 60s, 67 to be exact, and they were in Virginia and they wanted to be in a relationship. But back then, it wasn't allowed for people to cross races. They made it possible for people to do so. They basically fought for it, lost a lot, from being jailed to all of that kind of stuff. So with that being an example, it may not be as like showcased today, but some would say that internally, inside that personal relationship, they may feel that judgment from the outside world and inside, or maybe lack of understanding, for example, of what someone might go through. So for instance, let's say 18% of African Americans marry someone outside of a different race. That was 13% higher than in 1980. 11% of white people marry someone from a different race today compared to 4% in 1980. And Hispanics are actually the whiter of the bunch, that they actually marry outside of their race, 27%.
Yes.
And this is all coming. This is again all coming from creditdonkey.com, and that is all statistics pulled from there. So with those stats, as men, do you think that interracial relationships can cause a hiccup within your own viewpoints, like in your own relationship? Like if you were with somebody that wasn't within your race, do you think that alone causes a problem?
That alone can cause a problem. I do believe it can.
Do you believe that it's intent?
Intent? What do you mean by intent?
Like the reason you would get into an interracial relationship?
So you're saying the reason why?
So do you think what you just said, if you, it can be a problem? Do you think that proverbial can be translated? Like, for instance, I get in here because I want to build my credit and I know white people got good credit. So I'm going to go and marry a white woman because she got good credit. That's a stereotype, of course, but it's the reason I decided to get into that interracial relationship. Or, man, you know what? All these Latino women, they be causing me nothing but problems. Let me try dating a white woman, you know. Or is it, I got to know this woman beyond the fact that she's a different skin color or a different race than me. And mind you, we already talked about race and what that means for America. I love that person. I got to know them. There's that intent. So do you think that those problems that you said can be caused from it are because of the intent originally when they got into that relationship?
Sure. I think it can easily.
I'll tell you this from the white perspective. No, it's interesting because
the white man in the room.
Just letting you know, the elephant in the room will speak now. From the white perspective, if you're a white male and you're dating anybody outside of the white race, you're gonna be subject to criticism for it. Oftentimes because you're dating a person of color, which statistically in our country is a minority of the population. So you're gonna subject yourself to whether it's racism from family or friends or whatnot. Your intent, oftentimes, if from the white male perspective, is not to go, I'm gonna date a black woman because she can cook, stereotyped, or a Latino woman because she can dance or whatever. It was accidental. I just fell in love with somebody because of her race, and I'm gonna try and push out the biases that are surrounding me. I think, however, and you could correct me on this, if you're a person of color and you're dating a white woman, it might be somewhat of intent. I know some people try to get green cards in this country. They go, hey, white man traveling to Africa or South Asia, and they try to get here to the country because they recognize you're an American. So things like that. But in the white culture, I think a lot of it's accidental. A lot of them are not dating intentionally.
I had to I don't agree that much on what you're saying, due to the fact that if you go and you go back on time, for example, every time America has gone to an outside country, Philippines, Vietnam, they are the one appropriating or taking over the woman.
Sure.
And when I say Americans, I don't mean only white, black, or anything that is. Right now, I've been in the Philippines and they have a area called Cebu, and it's basically full of Americans or Americans that went, had kids, and left.
Now, the Asian thing's very different. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And so when you come to see, I believe, probably, yes, you have those cases where not only Hispanic, but the Russians, the, Europeans or other people that are not in a dictatorship country. They do see America as a way out, and they do go for that. But most of the time, at least Hispanics are most of the time like front about it.
Sure.
Hey, I'm paying you X amount of money for that visa. You want it, you don't want it. But there comes to the point also that I think both ends, black, Hispanics, white, when it comes to different type of relationship, they gonna encounter certain roadblocks, and most of the time the roadblocks are within the nucleus of the family.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with respect to American viewpoint, I appreciate how we were able to like kind of like merge those two together, because it's important to know how much of an influence we have as America too, which is really good to know, and just really realizing that we are all men at this table, and despite the fact that we are different, I mean, and we go through different struggles. We found that out last week. We can still come together and have these kind of conversations. One thing I'm going to last touch on interracial relationships, and this is, primarily on an African American note or Black note, however you wish to say it, because I know that there's some sensitivity to either words, but this is based off of statistics that I'm reading. So the percentage again of Black men who have a spouse of a different race are at 24%, while African American women are at 12%. Do you feel that African American women are doing that to preserve their, idea of what a family should be? I want an all Black family. And do you feel that Black women hold you guys accountable for going outside the race?
That's a tough one. I mean, I don't know. I grew up actually dating nothing but people outside of my race.
Why?
Mainly because of the areas my mom wanted me to grow up in. She was raised in the projects herself. And so even if it meant she didn't have any money, at the end of the day, she tried to put me in places that she deemed to be a little bit more safe, even if it was like the hood's right there and over here, but it's all right in the middle. At least it's a little safer here. And so I was around people growing up, my childhood, especially, that were mainly white, and that's what I saw, and so that's what I ended up gravitating towards more.
So, do you think that? I guess that's not a question. I guess you would say that helped cultivate your
the question. The reason why I don't really know is because of that. But if I were to actually have to answer that question, I would say it has a lot to do with where they grew up. And so I know as a father, if I had a Black daughter, I try to do the same thing my mom did. Put me in an area that was probably a little less Black. I probably would if I felt like it was going to, unfortunately, looking at the culture that is really taken over, the rap culture, it's now being pushed that it's better for the man to sell drugs, especially the Black man, to just focus on making money, to unfortunately sleep around. And so mine's more so a culture thing, not more so of a color thing. It just happens to be that in the rougher parts of the neighborhood, that culture is what thrives. That culture thrives there.
So do you think, the statistic was that men are Black men are more likely to date outside of their race as opposed to the females dating outside of their race. So do you think that the females are less likely to live in neighborhoods that are white based or different quintiles or?
Yeah, I can relate actually.
Yeah.
I grew up, my mom did the same thing.
Yeah.
So
I would say also you gotta see from the point of view that now that it's easier for the men to date outside the race, but as a father probably is more accepted, for the stereotype of moving forward with the race, or not even that, if we come and see, sports is predominant Black community. If you go to basketball, if you go to football, if you go to a different type of sports, so of course you're gonna, females, and it doesn't matter what it is, music, TV, whatever, they levitate more towards who is in the high end, so different from the woman. I would think probably the woman itself they probably don't feel or see the need of I will find something, because when you go to a person, and I think everybody here who has dated, you go because there's a fulfilling need, and that person is fulfilling a need that you might have. So if we see it from the point of view as your mom, for example, your mom, they move you to a area that they believe it was a more secure, either violence, either social stability, even better raising my kids. There was a need, and that's why she moved to that area.
Okay, so here's my question. Say that again.
So the statistic was talking about how Black women were actually more inclined to date people of their color,
Exactly.
not outside.
So
I had a thought. Now,
So, have you ever have either, and this is I guess for the Black people in the room, have you guys dated Black women? Why did it not? Why do you prefer not Black women?
I don't really have a preference nowadays. When I grew up, yeah, I preferred white women
Why?
because that's what I was around. That's what I saw. That's what was in magazines. That's what was on TV, and that's what was in my neighborhood.
So, what about you, Justin? Do you feel like maybe since what is your preference? Do you have a preference, or is it just I mean,
I'm an equal opportunist.
an equal?
I like
opportunity? That's funny.
Well, I think I have an answer to the question when it comes to females, and the Black females, and why they tend to date within their own race more. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that most Black women, they're a little bit bigger, thicker, and at one point in time, even now it's changed. So, but at one point in time, white was all about like, no, you can't have a big butt, you can't be big like it. That was a no-no. I remember when the white women were like, "Oh my God, is my butt big?" Like I remember when that was a thing. It's like, "Oh my!" And now they're just like, "Is it big? I need it to be bigger if it's not."
So you're saying that it's a restriction? That it's almost like a restriction?
Yeah, I think if anything, the Black women just really couldn't get with anybody
That's what I was
outside.
gonna say. Is it a choice? I don't think they have a choice necessarily.
Let me go ahead and wrap this up with one last question on the relationships on interracial relationships. Do you at all, or have you ever, found that the reason that you do not date Black women is because you find Black women ghetto?
That's my definition of ghetto.
Loud, obnoxious, immature.
I feel like they're like. Do you find that in any?
Terrible qualities.
You find that
Okay.
so you
I agree. Hold on, please. Okay.
This is a Rashad question.
Loud's okay. I mean,
It's not a Rashad question. It's definitely a Black question.
Oh, okay. Not another question.
So okay. I just
a
want to
culture
make
thing, though, yeah.
well. I just want to make sure because that stereotype is attached to Black women. So and it's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily accurate because all races do, like everybody was about to say. It's not that they are. We're going from the norm stereotype that is what is attached to Black women, which by the way, not all of them are. And honestly, they're just that's just how it's been categorized. And I was just making, I wanted to make that at the end of the day, it's about the person, right? For you guys. And that's what you guys attribute to. So quickly, what I'm going to read right now is just a couple of bullet points and ask you guys what you think about them. So a real man in any relationship should always love and respect his wife for who she is. Correct or not correct? What, go ahead.
when you say who she is, do you mean who she is
Blanket.
as in like who she's, see, this is where I get a little spiritual.
No, go ahead.
When it comes to, because I look at a person according to who God has called them to be. And so I love them where they're at, but I love them so much I won't let them stay there if it's not where they should be.
But the thing, let me ask you now.
Well, let me not say that. I said won't let them stay there. I didn't mean to say that. I will do my best to be a person in her life that encourages her to be
So you want to see growth?
to grow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's really what I'm. No, I was not gonna ask that, but okay.
So
It was good.
do you believe a
Yes.
real man commits to the relationship fully?
Repeat it again. Sorry.
Do you believe a real man will commit to his relationship completely,
Oh, really?
100%?
I think it can be done. Yes.
It depends.
Go ahead.
It depends on how much she's giving back to you, and not every relationship is perfect. And
Exactly.
that's the thing. In a perfect relationship, or one where they're both reciprocating love equally, then yes. But if you find the relationship slipping, and she's not committing herself to you 100%, then you don't. And obviously, this is a relationship that's going downhill. Then no, you don't need to be committing it at the same time.
I'll say this too. I mean, I think that love is really. I mean, there's a book I read a while ago. I think I should check it out. It's called The 5 Love Languages, right?
Right.
So, I mean, you've all heard of a relationship. I mean, we've all probably been in a relationship. Like, oh man, I gave it all I could. I loved her as best as I could, but she just couldn't love me back. right? And then you ask that person, the significant other, and like, oh my gosh, I loved him as much as I could. I gave him all I had. It just wasn't going to work. Well, I think sometimes you can be loving them, but you're loving them the way you would like to be loved, not necessarily the way they receive love, right? So I think men, in general, this is something I'm actually finding out about myself, is that for me, love outside of the 5 love languages, it really starts with a sense of respect, feeling like you, at least for me, I am the head of my household, right? Like and I'm not talking about the you're beneath me kind of respect. I'm just talking about a general amount of respect. We're like, hey, I know that I can do whatever I want, but hey, can we do this? Can we make plans on Saturday? What do you think about the kids doing this? It's like really coming to me just for affirmation. So I think that's one of the things. And I think for women, they really want to be, I think they want respect too, but I think a lot of the times is they genuinely want to be loved, which actually goes back to the 5 love languages.
It's funny you say that, because underneath this quote for the Real Man Commits to His Relationship fully, it says he nourishes and strengthens the relationship through ongoing, honest communication and teamwork, which, like you said, should be reciprocated. And when you're a real man, you know, when you have a real man, you know that you can trust him because they're coming to you with those affirmations. So it's really cool to see how we can pull together those kind of attributes. Now, before we move on to that, on to the next one, do you guys believe that looking at porn, looking at anything that can be considered promiscuous, work, or anything like that, church, whatever takes your time away from home, can in turn lead you to not be committed to your relationship fully?
No.
First of all, porn can't be a part of it at all. First of all, porn can't be a part of it at all.
Well, of course, but some people have those addictions.
I think
I'm just saying it's not going to work.
I think it depends on communication with your significant other, which is something that hasn't been mentioned yet. If you communicate effectively with your wife, even porn can be a part of the lifestyle together. Sexual things happen, so and you can make that part of your.
In that moment, you committed to her anyway.
See,
that's a commitment together.
The only reason why I disagree with that is because marriage is actually a covenant between you and your wife and God.
Right.
That's the only reason why I disagree.
And that's the
I understand where you're coming from.
Right.
If you're not married, cool. But if you're married, no, that's going to actually break it apart, break that covenant.
Sure, and that's the spiritual side of it. But besides the porn aspect, the work or
that's why marriage was created.
Or going out and being with the boys, or even a night like tonight, we're all away from our significant others right now. So you can never be 100% committed to 2 things ever in life, because what's 100% commitment anyway? But as long as the communication's honest, I think it's
I would say you can, because the fact is that, for example, are you committed to being a teacher every day when you go to work?
I'd like to think so. Yeah.
So and when you get back home, are you committed to who's your partner? 100%. So yes, you can. It has to be, like he said, a balance. And yes, you could do certain things to an extent. For example, it's healthy actually. If you go to psychologists or studies, it's healthy to have certain moments by yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
I agree with you on either, porn or I don't go to strip clubs. I never go to strip club. I don't like strip club. So I agree that probably is not healthy, because then you are minimizing or demonizing your partner on, I'm looking for something here that you're not giving me. So when it comes to the point of work, hanging out with your boys, having a night out or whatever, yes, you could commit to both, because that's life. You should have it. For example, let's say that you have a kid from a previous marriage. So you're telling me then that spending time with your kid by yourself, because it's just your guys' time, you're taking away from your wife?
Well, it's taking time away from your wife, yeah.
But then you're not committing 100% because you're giving your son 1 day a week or 2 days a week?
Well, I think that's all. I see where you're going with that.
Right.
I would appreciate that as any man would. I would hope, with the fact of having a child out, and a lot of men have that.
Yeah,
which is it's all about balance, like you said at that point.
I know we're probably running short on time, but like I'm itching to talk about this for like real quick second.
Okay, cool.
So I agree with you in a lot of things that you said, right? So, but I think men compartmentalize, right? And I know you said like the spiritual side, but honestly, what he said actually taps into more of a biological side, right? So, when we compartmentalize, we'll say relationships, physicality, right, or sexuality. That's one box, we'll call it. So when you're watching porn, it actually taps into that same box.
Right.
So you're compartmentalizing porn and your spouse in the same box. And then that's when you're sharing, right? You're not committing 100% of your physical, even if when you do it together, you're hardwiring your brain to say that this is what we need to stimulus.
So
Right.
can we say that, and this is, I'm going to end it with this, but can we say that if we give 100% to ourselves and our growth and our individual selves, that we can effectively give back to the family that we have, our responsibilities that we have, that we can, that in our growth we understand that everything at this table we spoke about, can we give that to our family? I mean, through any means, our growth.
I
Rephrase the question really quick.
Tell me how you want to. So,
He's talking about an order of operations.
So my
if you
thing
give
is
yourself,
that-
then essentially you're giving to everything
so
else.
if you give everything you need to yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a way to say, hey, I can't serve my family unless I'm growing. I can't serve my family unless I'm giving back to myself. I can't serve my family in any way, shape, or form as a man unless I am consistently learning, growing, and listening. And in that, we have all those other caveats. Can you guys agree to that?
100% agree. Order is important.
But you fall into like a pitfall with that, right? So that characterization is based off of what do I personally think my needs are, right? So what if you say, personally, baby, I think in order for me to love you 100%, I need to go to the strip club.
Well, that's why I said listen.
Yeah.
That's-
That's why I don't believe this whole 50-50 thing.
Okay. I
I
got
So
think
that-
it's 100 and 100.
Yeah.
Right. So I
see.
see. That's why I said listening. Right. I mean, we have to be able to listen to other people so we can humbly be checked. Like, you know what I mean? At
that's
the end
good.
of the day,
Okay.
don't
Yeah.
you think that that's the only way we can be checked?
Let me ask you something in that sense and throw the question to the table, probably if you could give me a light. Can you be fulfilling 100% yourself and also your family?
And
Oh.
that's the question.
Or sometimes we as men, because I've been 20 years married, I have 3 kids, sacrifice yourself for your family.
Amen. I like that. So with that question for the audience, I thank you so much for your time and have a great night from the 21st Man.